The twin moons of Aurelia hung in the sky above the capital city, casting a silver light over the sleek towers and domed observatories. On the highest platform of the observatory dome stood Leora, a 17-cycle-old girl, watching the stars in silence. Her gaze was fixed, not in wonder, but in search of something lost. Her mother, Dr. Alari, had disappeared 3 months ago during a scientific mission to a remote sector of the galaxy. The mission had been routine, an exploration of bioluminescent life on the surface of Karen V. The rest of her research team returned without her. There had been no distress signal, no wreckage, only silence. The council concluded that the disappearance was accidental. Magnetic storms, miscalculated trajectories, or a technical failure were listed as the likely causes. The case was closed, and official efforts to locate her mother ceased. Leora, however, refused to accept the explanation. Hidden in her mother's old laboratory, Leora began searching through encrypted research logs. She worked in the dim light, surrounded by dormant machines and layers of scientific data. After weeks of scanning files and reconstructing fragments of her mother's work, she found a hidden journal entry that had never been archived in the planetary systems. I've located a signal, older than our archives, layered beneath the magnetic crust of Karen V. It's not natural. It's deliberate, ancient. I believe this is linked to the primals, entities spoken of only in myth. If I don't return, follow the stars that do not move. Leora had heard of the primals before. They were figures in legends, supposedly ancient beings who vanished before recorded history began. Most scholars dismissed the stories as superstition, but her mother had believed there was truth in those legends. And now, so did Leora. That night, she made a decision. She would not wait for the council to reopen a case they considered resolved. She would not allow her mother's legacy to be buried under silence. If no one else would search, she would. At dawn, Leora entered the research hangar and approached the Venturelight, a small but capable scout-class vessel her mother had frequently used. It was equipped with long-range sensors, stealth shielding, and a reinforced hull designed for hostile atmospheres. She activated the vessel, uploaded her mother's encrypted navigation data, and launched without authorization. Her course was set toward the edge of known space. The journey through hyperspace took several days. During the transit, Leora reviewed her mother's field notes and personal entries. Scattered across her logs were references to strange signals, anomalies in planetary cores, and patterns in organic life that pointed to external intervention. All of it led back to Karen V. When she arrived, the planet's surface appeared volatile. Violent electromagnetic storms covered much of the landscape. Leora's sensors barely functioned through the interference. The surface was mountainous and jagged, with dark stone cliffs carved by ancient winds. As she entered the atmosphere, the Venturelight began to shake from the turbulence. She guided the ship carefully through the storm, relying on manual controls. After several minutes of descent, a weak signal broke through the static. It matched the frequency her mother used for deep field communication. Leora traced the signal to a narrow canyon near the planet's equator. She landed the ship on a stable outcropping and began her descent on foot. The terrain was rough, littered with obsidian-like shards and deposits of unknown minerals. She carried only her scanner, a light pack of supplies, and her mother's old pulse beacon. The signal led her to a cliff wall that appeared solid at first. Upon closer inspection, Leora discovered faint geometric patterns etched into the stone. As she approached, the scanner detected subtle energy readings consistent with artificial technology. She placed her hand on the surface. The patterns lit up. A segment of the wall shifted inward, revealing a hidden entrance. Leora stepped through the opening without hesitation. The corridor beyond was dark and cold. The architecture was unfamiliar. Smooth surfaces, seamless joints, and an absence of visible construction marks. The walls emitted a faint luminescence, just enough to reveal the path ahead. She moved forward slowly, her scanner picking up sporadic energy spikes. Deeper into the structure, she found markings on the walls, symbols unlike anything cataloged in the Varillian databases. Some glowed faintly, others remained dormant. She reached a central chamber. The room was circular, with a raised platform at its center. Suspended above the platform was a sphere about half a meter in diameter. It rotated slowly, emitting a low-frequency pulse. As Leora approached, the scanner's display flickered. The pulse matched the signal that had led her here. Her mother had been in this place. Leora studied the room, marking every detail into her logs. There were no signs of recent struggle, no organic matter, but something told her that this place had not been abandoned. She turned her attention to the sphere, cautiously reaching out. As her hand drew near, the sphere responded. Light patterns spiraled outward, illuminating hidden panels along the walls. The chamber's temperature shifted slightly. A tone echoed through the chamber, long and low. She didn't understand its meaning, but she recognized one thing. The tone was a greeting, or a warning. Leora stepped back, considering her next move. She had found the ruins. She had found evidence of the primals. And she had found a trail that confirmed her mother had reached this place. But she had not yet found her. As she prepared to leave the chamber, Leora looked once more at the sphere, recording its pulse into her scanner. Her journey had just begun. Leora marked the hidden structure's location in her log and returned to the Venture Light to prepare for extended exploration. The storm had begun to intensify, and visibility was reduced to less than 20 meters. Her ship remained shielded, but electromagnetic interference had disabled long-range communications and corrupted her backup signals. She re-entered the alien structure the next morning. The stone wall had resealed itself, but the entrance reactivated upon her approach. Inside, the corridor remained unchanged, silent and dimly lit by the wall's faint glow. Leora descended deeper, scanning the environment. The architecture became more intricate the farther she went. Angular designs curved into smooth, repeating patterns that defied conventional geometry. The material of the walls remained unknown, not stone, not metal, and resistant to all sample extraction tools. At the lower level, she reached a second chamber, circular like the one above but far larger. In its center stood a towering obelisk-shaped device. It emitted no light, no sound, but registered as active on her scanner. Around the base were fragments of debris, broken equipment, and a shattered field terminal of Aurelian origin. She approached cautiously and inspected the fragments. The serial number on the terminal matched one listed in her mother's last mission manifest. The equipment was partially melted, as if exposed to intense heat or energy, but no fire damage was present elsewhere. Her scanner detected residual biological traces, Aurelian DNA. Not enough to confirm her mother's presence, but enough to prove someone from her team had been there. The data core of the terminal was mostly corrupted, but a small portion remained intact. Leora linked it to her field console and initiated recovery protocols. The recovered data contained partial audio. We found not a tomb, not a ruin, it's awake. The obelisk it sees we... The transmission ended in distortion. Leora studied the obelisk for several minutes. The surface was covered in unfamiliar glyphs, different from those at the entrance. As she examined it, her scanner pinged a low-frequency energy burst. The obelisk responded to her presence by shifting slightly, its top turning a few degrees. A horizontal seam appeared across the center. From it, a projection formed, an image suspended in the air. It was static at first, then slowly resolved into a star map. Multiple systems were highlighted, none of which corresponded to any known coordinates. The center of the map featured a structure that resembled the obelisk, surrounded by orbiting glyphs. She recorded everything and saved a duplicate in her ship's core. The projection faded after 2 minutes. The obelisk closed. Leora remained still, observing for several more minutes before retreating back to the entrance. Outside, the storm had grown stronger. Her suit compensated for the atmospheric changes, but her ship's sensors were nearly blinded. Back inside the Venture Light, she began analyzing the recovered map. Using a process of elimination and pattern matching, she identified one possible system from the projection, designated S-114, located beyond the outer rim of known territory. It was uncharted, previously dismissed as a gravitational anomaly region. Leora loaded the new coordinates and prepared for departure. Before lifting off, she installed a beacon near the structure, leaving a digital log of her findings encoded for the Council, should anyone else follow. She launched into orbit and entered hyperspace, headed for S-114A. The journey took several days. During transit, she studied her mother's scientific reports again, cross-referencing with known accounts of so-called primal relics. There were only 3 confirmed discoveries in Varillian history, each surrounded by unexplained events and classified outcomes. One detail appeared in all 3 reports: the presence of deep harmonic frequencies near the sites, frequencies never reproduced artificially. The obelisk in Karen V had emitted a similar tone. On the 4th day of travel, Leora reached the outskirts of S-114A. Her ship exited hyperspace near the system's edge. It was unstable, surrounded by debris fields, ion storms, and gravitational distortions. Navigation required manual control. She maneuvered through the debris, using short-range scans. One anomaly stood out, an energy signature identical to the one at the obelisk. She followed it to a small moon orbiting a gas giant. The moon appeared barren from orbit, but surface scans revealed underground chambers and artificial structures. Leora descended and landed near a fissure in the moon's crust. The entrance resembled the structure on Karen V. Again, the same material, the same faint glyphs. She entered. The chamber beyond was colder, darker, and steeper than the first. This time, there were signs of recent passage, footprints in the dust, markings on the walls that looked like someone had used a Varillian plasma cutter. At the far end of the corridor, she found another obelisk. This one was damaged, cracked along one side, its symbols dim. Near its base was a datapad. Leora picked it up and activated its contents. A voice recording began. "This is Dr. Alari. If you found this, it means the vault on Karen V activated. Good. That means you're close. The primals were not extinct. They withdrew. Watched. We triggered something when we activated the signal. They responded. Not with war, but with silence. They took me to understand. If you follow this path, be prepared. Not everything ancient is gone. Some of it waits." The recording ended. Leora uploaded the data to her main console. Her mother was alive, or had been recently. She was taken somewhere deeper, possibly by the entities themselves. The trail now pointed farther into the uncharted zone. Leora returned to the Venture Light, recalibrated her navigation systems, and set course for the next signal source. Her search continued. Leora's ship entered a narrow hyperspace corridor directed by the data from her mother's last message. The coordinates led to a red dwarf star system obscured by nebular clouds and gravitational drift. No ships had been registered passing through the region in over a century. She emerged into real space near a planet with a fractured crust. It showed evidence of artificial terraforming, large grid-like scars across its surface, and unnatural mineral formations extending for kilometers. Scans revealed several subsurface cavities with low but stable atmospheric pockets. Leora chose the largest cavity and descended through a controlled fissure. Her ship's hull vibrated as it passed through the residual magnetic field. A hidden barrier activated, then disengaged, allowing her to land on a platform inside a hollowed-out dome within the planet. She exited the Venture Light and approached the nearest tunnel. It was lined with tall monoliths, each etched with vertical lines of glyphs. A consistent hum pulsed through the structure. The frequency matched the obelisk she encountered on Karen V and the moon of S-114A. Further in, the architecture shifted from linear to spiral formations. Gravity fluctuated subtly. Time distortion readings appeared on her suit's chronometer, but her internal systems stabilized quickly. She entered a wide chamber at the center of the structure. There, she found 7 seated figures, tall, bipedal, and motionless. Each was enclosed in a translucent shell. Their forms were preserved, but unmoving. They wore metallic layers integrated into their biological forms. Her scanner identified faint life signs. The chamber's power source was embedded in the floor beneath them, shaped like a circular lens array pointing upward. Between the figures stood a pedestal. On it, a crystalline disk rotated slowly above a magnetic field. As Leora approached, it activated, projecting a memory construct. The construct depicted a series of events. Virilian exploration ships entering prohibited zones, activating relics, and transmitting unknown data across space. The primals, shown as the same tall beings, responded by isolating the regions. A timeline appeared. Each discovery by Virilian scientists was followed by a silent reaction. Containment or removal, not confrontation. The projection shifted. Dr. Ilari appeared next, interacting with one of the obelisks. The recording displayed her being approached by 3 of the entities. She did not resist. She handed over a data core and was taken with them. The display concluded. Leora copied the sequence and searched for physical evidence. She found a compartment behind the pedestal and opened it. Inside was a sealed message capsule marked with her mother's biosignature. She opened the capsule and retrieved the encoded message. It contained detailed coordinates of the final location her mother had been taken to, an artificial construct located at the galactic pole, outside the spiral arm. It also included research logs describing the primal's cognitive network and their view of knowledge as a living force. The message ended with a single line. They are not our enemies, but they do not trust disruption. Leora uploaded the data into her ship's navigation system. As she turned to leave the chamber, the 7 figures stirred slightly. Their heads tilted in her direction. They made no move to stop her, but their gaze followed her as she exited. Outside, she launched from the hollow planet and entered hyperspace again, heading to the galactic pole. The trip took several days through unstable space. She passed through multiple gravitational anomalies. Her ship's systems began experiencing minor glitches, temporal echoes in the logs, visual distortions in the viewports, and redundant sensor readings. She documented each one. Finally, she arrived. At the coordinates, she found a massive ring-like structure suspended in deep space. It was not connected to any planet or body. It rotated slowly, creating an internal artificial gravity field. The structure was nearly 800 kilometers in diameter, made of material unknown to Virilian science. The only entrance was through a central docking hub. Leora approached cautiously. As she neared, her ship was scanned automatically. The docking bay opened. She entered and landed without resistance. Inside, the station was silent. Lighting activated as she walked. The hallways were symmetrical and filled with encoded symbols. She followed the only open path until she reached a vast circular room filled with suspended data archives. Rotating crystal pillars, each one pulsing with soft light. A single figure stood at the center. It was Dr. Ilari. She turned as Leora approached. The reunion was immediate, but no embrace followed. Dr. Ilari raised her hand and motioned toward the archive array. "This is what they wanted us to see," she said. Leora remained silent and observed. Dr. Ilari began transmitting data into Leora's scanner. It contained copies of hundreds of civilizations' knowledge libraries, coded thoughts, languages, evolutionary blueprints, and universal constants. "The primals are collectors," Ilari explained. "They preserve, not dominate. But interference with their systems activates defense protocols. Our exploration woke up dormant systems. They responded not with war, but containment." She explained how she had learned their language and their logic. The primals valued continuity. When Virilians began experimenting with star core manipulation, they viewed it as a disruption of cosmic equilibrium. The obelisks were relay points, anchored to stabilize critical thought currents that pass through the galaxy. Interacting with them, without understanding created data, ruptures the primals moved to seal. Leora asked why she had not been allowed to return. Dr. Ilari responded by handing her a final data core. Because returning without understanding would have led to escalation. Now that contact had been re-established through Leora, the primals had consented to a return, so long as the data was brought back with full context, not as a threat, but as a request for integration. The reunion concluded. Together, Leora and her mother returned to the Venturelight. Their next course was not toward home, but toward the Verilian Central Council. The message they carried was more than a rescue report. It was a proposal, a coexistence with the galaxy's original caretakers. Leora and Dr. Alari charted a return course to the Verilian core systems. The journey would take 9 standard days. The Venturelight was adjusted to accommodate long-range data encryption protocols. The data cores retrieved from the Primal Archive were stored in sealed memory columns and surrounded by signal-dampening fields. During transit, Dr. Alari updated Leora on the interface patterns used by the Primals. Their communication was nonverbal and consisted of layered signals, sound harmonics, electromagnetic pulses, and visual sequences. The purpose was to avoid linguistic ambiguity. Leora reviewed the data logs. The Primals had documented thousands of civilizations, many predating Verilian history. Their archive included entire ecosystems, cultural evolutions, and extinct biospheres preserved in digital stasis. Each Primal site served a specific role: obelisks for observation, rings for data integration, and vaults for containment. The activation of 3 sites by Verilian scientists had triggered a defensive protocol. Dr. Alari's presence had delayed a larger reaction. Her continued stay had been a calculated decision by the Primals. Upon entering the core systems, the Venturelight transmitted a secure message to the Central Science Directorate. Clearance was granted for immediate landing at Aurelian Prime, the capital of Aurelia. A delegation awaited their arrival, including members of the Exploration Guild, the Council, and High Research Authority. The ship landed on Platform 12. Security personnel surrounded the area, but no weapons were drawn. Leora and Dr. Alari disembarked with the data cores and containment units. They were led to the central conference chamber, where classified hearing commenced. Dr. Alari presented the findings. She summarized her disappearance, the discovery of primal sites, and her eventual transport to the Central Archive Station. Leora confirmed the sequence and presented visual evidence and audio recordings. The data cores were connected to a secure interface. Council technicians verified authenticity. When decrypted, the archives displayed multispectral visuals of galactic-scale phenomena, including the collapse of the Zarnic civilization, the rise and fall of the Eolans, and the silent stewardship of the Primals across cosmic epochs. The Council debated for hours. Some proposed immediate integration with Primal systems. Others called for caution and further study. Eventually, a consensus was reached. A neutral envoy would be formed. Verilia would establish a communication treaty with the Primals. Leora was appointed lead liaison due to her contact experience and successful navigation of Primal protocols. Dr. Alari declined formal reinstatement to the Science Guild. Instead, she accepted an advisory role in the new Primal Interface Unit. The next phase began. Over the following weeks, Leora led multiple expeditions back to previously restricted zones. Primal relay sites were now accessible under guided conditions. Scientists were permitted to study them using approved instruments. Exchanges of data began. The Primals responded by stabilizing gravitational fault lines in key systems and reactivating dormant, terraforming arrays across several dead planets. The gesture was understood as trust. A major breakthrough came when Leora helped construct the first Primal Verilian translator core. It enabled real-time signal decryption from harmonic frequencies into readable code. This led to the discovery of further archives, including one that documented the first sentient life in the galaxy. The new age of cooperation began quietly. No fanfare, no formal alliance, just the slow merging of 2 knowledge systems. One day, while overseeing a relay calibration on the moon of Halmaris, Leora received a new primal signal. It contained a single glyph, unknown, not from their existing index. Dr. Ilari identified it as an invitation. Coordinates were attached. Leora authorized a mission and set course once again. At the edge of the Andari's expanse, she arrived at an isolated construct. It was small, only 50 meters wide, and made of the same material as the obelisks. Inside was a chamber containing 3 projection platforms. Each one displayed theoretical models of time-space engineering, including nonlinear memory states and stabilized temporal branches. It was an offer, a shared research project. Leora transmitted the data to the Science Guild. Approval was immediate. This marked the first true collaboration between the species. Not observation, not containment, but co-development. Virelia moved forward. The archives were expanded. Exploration resumed with new protocols. Other civilizations began noticing the quiet changes. Planets once barren now blooming. Ancient structures activating across forgotten systems. No explanation was publicly given, but those who were involved understood. Leora returned to Aurelian Prime after each mission. She continued to serve as liaison. Dr. Ilari worked from the observatory ring, documenting each signal and refining the translator core. The story of her quest was classified. No monuments were built. No historical records were released. But the galaxy changed, and the quiet bond between a daughter, her mother, and the Watchers of the Stars became the foundation for a new era of understanding.